They're looking for the people that rigged the election in the country. Then you look at January 6th. It was a rigged election, and we're looking at it, and almost everybody in this room agree. It was a rigged election, but we won much bigger with millions and millions more votes in 2020. It was a rigged election.
1,254 miles.
All right, we'll continue to monitor this. Just one slight thing I just wanted to add, because when you hear it, and you heard it from Donald Trump about the 2020 election, and it got millions of more votes, in fact, he did get millions of more votes, he still lost.
Well, let's make this clear. The reason that the networks have to do this, and they should do more of it, is because Trump is making it necessary. He is abusing live TV to tell lies. Now, you know what? If I lie to you right now, maybe I made a mistake, maybe not. If I come back on next week and I say the same thing, you shouldn't have me on a third week.
Stop! He's already dead.
Could it be the smell of a $787 million lawsuit in the air? Or are some Fox News hosts finally beginning to get it?
From 45 to 46.
So what I thought, just to kind of continue what you were saying there, Emily, what he said was, take me on yourself.
You know what it reminded me of? Just permit me to say this, is that joke between the scientist and God, where they each say, oh, the scientist says, I can make my own man. All right, we'll start with the dirt here. And then God says, hold on, find your own dirt.
Okay, yeah, I know. Let's not go that far. But still, this is now the second time in a matter of weeks that Fox News hosts have cut away from a Trump speech in real time, fact check his blatant lies.
She lost the Virgin Islands, which she tried like hell to get. We won that too. A lot of people don't know that. But then we went to Nevada.
All right, we're continuing monitoring the president's remarks, and I mean no offense to him, or some of you might want to continue hearing, but I did have to say that even though the former president is entitled to his opinions, he's not entitled to his own set of facts.
After Trump spoke at a rally in South Carolina last week, Fox News host Neil Cavuto cut into the stream to remind viewers of the countless lies that Trump spews, often without a coherent thought in between.
He's not entitled to his own set of facts. The market has indeed been going up, but having nothing to do with him, and everything to do with this aggressive cut in interest rates, or just a hiking in interest rates and stabilized inflation, and of course the whole artificial intelligence phenomenon that has benefited NVIDIA and a host of companies that are making money hand over fist. So that, whether you want to give Biden credit for that, has nothing to do with Donald Trump. Furthermore, he mentioned about gas prices out of whack, $6 a gallon. The national average right now is $3.26 a gallon. He went on to talk about the 2020 election and how that was rigged. This has been adjudicated many, many times, dozens of times. It's been investigated by everyone and his uncle. No fewer than 44 investigations launched, some of them by judges that were picked by Donald Trump himself, that found no evidence of that in the 7 battleground states where most of them were focused. Donald Trump lost each and every one of those states. And no facts or no...
While we've come to expect the fact checks from the likes of CNN, this, of course, sent shockwaves across the interwebs.
Leap, your take.
Well, let's make this clear. The reason that the networks have to do this, and they should do more of it, is because Trump is making it necessary. He is abusing live TV to tell lies. Now, you know what? If I lie to you right now, maybe I made a mistake, maybe not. If I come back on next week and I say the same thing, you shouldn't have me on a third week, because I've known
Wait, let me write this down. Okay.
And
don't have Philippe on.
You know, what Trump did for the first term is that he ran roughshod over the networks. They never used the word lie. They were too afraid to do it.
Yeah.
And one of the lessons from that first term was call it out. And he makes it impossible to not do that.
All right.
If CNN didn't want to give an audience, they wouldn't have cut to it.
We could debate.
Then it happened again, merely days later. Cavuto was up to bat once more while forced to listen as Trump rambled his way through a train wreck appearance at the border in Eagle Pass, resulting to his fact-free fallback of supposedly winning in 2020.
The radical left Democrats rigged the presidential election of 2020, and it was rigged, and it was stolen. And if something happened where it gets stolen, because it's the only way they're going to do it, they're professional thieves.
1,254 miles.
All right, we'll continue to monitor this. Just one slight thing I just wanted to add, because when you hear it, and you heard it from Donald Trump about the 2020 election, and it got millions of more votes, in fact, he did get millions of more votes, he still lost that election. That is not in doubt anymore. That's not being debated anymore. But I didn't want to get off topic too much. I do want...
And while these are rarities amidst the slew of propaganda that is pumped out of the Murdoch manipulation machine, they're actually becoming a little more regular.
And Trump's got enough incest baggage to ground that plane that he has.
Let's restrain that bureaucracy. And I think that'll be better for markets, better for Trump, better for Americans, better for prosperity. We just need Republicans to lead.
But our Republicans are not leading, and no offense to you, sir. I mean, you guys look like the Keystone Cops. You can't agree on anything, and there's now everyone wants, the speaker's head. I don't know where you stand on that. But to add insult to injury, then the president comes out to say on the border he's got some ideas ahead of his State of the Union address where he might take executive actions, executive orders, maybe undoing some of the ones that he signed the day he became president. Now, some of your colleagues are going after him and say you can't do that, even though they said you have the power to do this. So he is going to do this. It's confusing because he said he wasn't going to do it. I'm just wondering, is he getting the better of you on the PR front? Not that that should matter, but it seems to matter.
Hell, even the likes of Tomi Lahren had a smelling salt moment on air when she realized that, see that evidenceless impeachment thing? Maybe not the best strategy going forward.
Both sides have been spinning this, obviously, and if this other televised hearing comes about, I can just imagine the ratings. But Jim Comer says the deposition was successful. They were able to prove several bits of our evidence. That's a quote from the congressman. The question the mainstream media keep asking is, where's the proof that Joe Biden got a dime?
Yeah, and that's going to be the difficult part for Republicans. And I got to say, as somebody who does believe there's plenty of evidence here, I think that this has failed optically for Republicans, and they've done good work. Obviously, Jim Jordan, Comer have done great work on this, but optically, it does make it seem as though they're beating up on someone with addiction issues. That's exactly what the media wanted it to look like. That's how they framed it. And unfortunately, that's what's coming to fruition. So I would encourage Republicans. I know you want to get to the bottom of this, but let's focus on the election. Let's focus on the failed policies of Joe Biden. This impeachment inquiry, unfortunately, is falling flat with a lot of viewers and voters.
Tommy and I found common ground.
You were going to endorse everything.
Yet the majority of Republicans across the board continue to rally behind the man, clings to this losing strategy like it was the last bottle of ketchup at Mar-a-Lago, when the harsh reality for them is, since 2016, it's only resulted in loss.
Yeah. Do this. Donald Trump lost in 2017.
After loss.
2018.
After loss.
2019. 2020. 2021. 2022. 2023. And last night. Wow.
Okay. Well, I heard what he said, and he talked about how he was a bit vengeful, talking about how I promised I'd never run against him. He also needs to remember that I campaigned for a lot of governors and a lot of House and Senate members. And after we lost all of those elections, that's when we decided to jump in, because we lost in 2018, we lost in 2020, we lost in 2022. I was just in Michigan, and since Donald Trump became president in 2016, they lost the governor's mansion, they lost the state house, they lost the state Senate. Same thing in Minnesota. I went to Colorado. No Republican has won more than 45% statewide since Donald Trump became president. I went to Virginia, the exact same thing. Glenn.
But please, feel free to continue with that strategy.
There were a few things, though, in the polls that stuck out to me as just kind of mind-bending. So in the Dobbs era, the New York Times Siena poll had him tied with women with Trump at 46. So Biden won 57% of women in 2020 before Roe v. Wade was taken away, and before we've had 7 or 8 referendums on reproductive choice, and before women have become, again, the angriest coalition of voters, and now suddenly they're tied. That makes no sense to me. I know that Donald Trump released gold sneakers and he's been indicted, so he thinks that black people like him more now. But do you really think that he's going to get 20% plus of the black votes? Completely upends electoral history. The Hispanic vote in the New York Times Siena poll, so only 3% of their interviews were done in Spanish, when about 20% of the Latino electorate is only Spanish speaking. So that seems like it's not particularly representative. And then the Gen Z vote, again, this idea that Donald Trump is appealing to a generation that cares about the things that he cares about the least on the planet, like reproductive choice, climate change, gun safety. And then just a Dean Phillips moment. Dean Phillips even tweeted this. He was getting 12% representation in one of the polls. He said only 5% know who I am, and he gets about a percentage point in all of these caucuses.